The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. Your chance to have your say. Open line today. Only 3 out of 5 open lines next week, because on Wednesday we're talking about net zero with John Curtis and Lamara Crane, and next Friday, a week today, going to be live at the Royal Show with a panel of guests live in the sunshine, he said, hopefully. So today, the floor's yours. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Here at the home of the halfway horse tram, did you hear former Chief Minister Tony Brown talking about the fact that we seem to be, or he thought, we seem to be undervaluing the railway offering on the Isle of Man, and particularly as there's a heritage railway event going on at the moment. You may have seen fans of rail transport up and down the Isle of Man over the past few days with big cameras. They're the ones that's always a giveaway, the big camera. So do you think Tony Brown's right? We do undervalue the railway, the heritage railway system we've got. It is absolutely unique. Nowhere in the world has the combination of what we have. Steam railway, electric railway, mountain railway, horse trams, and some narrow gauge stuff like at Crowdle Glen. Not to mention the small narrow gauge one at the wildlife park. So the home of the halfway horse tram is not exactly complimentary, but it's what we've got at the moment. Any thoughts? Text, email, call, WhatsApp, railway fans. And David's first with us today. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I've sent you some photographs, and I'm shameful of this government. It's either the DHSS or Health to do with the new Summerhill Views, which was called Glenside.
Right.
It was drawn to my attention yesterday, so I took the camera out and sent you the photographs. I'm ashamed where the new crossing is there. If you look at one of the photographs there, the Cushags are growing either side of the crossing. I seen a lady last night walking up the new footpath, and she had to go out to miss the Cushags. So one of my challenges is going to be, if the government don't cut it on Monday, I'm going to do it on Tuesday. Bag it up in a see-through bag, seal it, and deliver it to the sea terminal. And that's a promise. Because I'm just shameful of where simple things, taking a pair of secateurs out and cutting them and getting rid of them. And in a brand new place where nobody wants to say to me now who's responsible for it, because it's under an agency now, isn't it? Does that include the garden?
Well, you wonder now, and of course, with, as you say, being under an agency, nobody quite knows who's responsible, and you get the feeling they're all pointing at each other. Yeah.
Instead of somebody saying, well, that's a fair cop, we'll do that in half an hour, or somebody go and do it, or we get this, like I said the other day, do we have to get the community to come out and do things and point these things out to government departments, which should be doing them as a matter of course. And on this one here, at the new Summerhill Views site, which is the Jab Centre as well, in the entrance there, is, people walking to that and having to walk out into the road when there's a new pavement there and a new crossing. And, sorry, Andy, I was going to, little plug for myself really too, is we're having a car boot sale on for Onken AFC on Sunday between 10 and 4. And the help I need from the listeners is the cherry Jaffa cakes have all disappeared.
Dear me.
I can't get a Jaffa cake from any store at all. I've tried them all. So I'm going to throw a thing out there. I can invite you down. So if anybody brings me a little packet, I just need a little packet of cherry Jaffa cakes for Sunday.
Let's put this out. Sorry,
to the clubhouse.
Cherry Jaffa cakes at Blackberry Lane, yeah?
Yeah, or even the raspberry ones, which I haven't tasted yet because I can't get any.
Well, okay.
All right.
I should just write that down again. Here we are. David on the Scrounge. Right. Okay. What time's the car boot?
10 till 4, have a look at our beautiful clubhouse. Look where the kids in Onken, 400 kids play football. The field's a bit slanty, but they learn how to play football. See you there.
Especially when you're kicking uphill. All right, thanks for calling today. All right, cheers now. Have a good weekend. It's 11 minutes past 12. Anybody know where you can get cherry Jaffa cakes? I'm serious about this. Julian's on with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well, thanks, yes.
Just before I speak about an update to Derby Airfield, I'd just like to add my 100% support to Louisa, who called into the Mannin Line yesterday. I noticed that there are hundreds of class actions around the world that are happening, so we'll just have to see what happens with vaccine injuries and exactly how many.
Well, it was, for new listeners, start here. She called in yesterday saying that she's got a claim in, and the Manx government aren't handling the claims. They've handed it to the UK, and you can't do anything in person. It all has to be done. They have to get your medical records, and they're saying you have to be anything above 60% and above affected by this, 60% and above disability, and then they'll think about it. Anything less than 60% and no.
Can you imagine what's 50%? Let's suppose somebody's 50% disabled. That's quite something, and you don't get anything. I don't quite understand how that's worked out, really.
This kind of brings back, I don't know whether you recall at the time, but of course we covered everything, absolutely every word that the government said during COVID. And I do remember when people were clamouring for the vaccine, Mr. Ashford, who was DHSC Minister at the time, said they were waiting for the UK indemnity. So maybe that's what this is about. It's the UK indemnity under which this is all happening.
Yeah, another strange thing was I spoke to Shri, who was head of the decision-making at the hospital. I've forgotten his surname. This is the chap that's been working over in the UK as well, but I think he stepped down from here now. Yeah. And when I asked him at a board meeting of Manx Care in November 21, he said that they were intercepting the yellow card Manx vaccine damage reports. So right. I don't quite understand how now we're being told they don't receive them. Perhaps Laurie Hooper can clarify that one.
Anyway.
Yes, an update to the Derby Airfield. If anyone would like to just go on Wikipedia now and put in RAF Derby, there is a section called RAF and Current Use. This was edited at 12:06 yesterday, right at the start of the Mannin Line. And it says that the new airport at Derby will be called Sir Mark Cavendish Airport after the cyclist, which is interesting. Now, the editor of the page, who goes by the username The Joy of All Things, claims that the runway will be 26,000 metres long. Now, my first instinct is that this editor has got the decimal point wrong. But just in case he's right, or she's right, 26,000 metres is 16 miles long, which would make it 5 times longer than the longest runway in the world at Ulyanovsk Airport in Russia. The only way you'd fit that runway on the Isle of Man would be in a southerly direction. So from Derby, that would end up, ironically, at Ronnog at Erie Stain, which may put the kibosh on that proposed wind farm. So I suppose the moral of the story is you can't believe everything you read on Wikipedia, and the devil's in the detail.
I think somebody may have been having a little play yesterday. I don't think that's as it would appear.
No. It would be quite interesting on that takeoff, wouldn't it? You could pop into the spa at Ballaugh on the way down, and then maybe pop in the butchers at Kirkmichael by the time you got to take off. You
could land a space shuttle there, couldn't you?
Well, this runway would be 5.5 times longer than Edwards Air Force Base. So, that'd be quite some. The only thing is, of course, you'd have to start levelling Slieau Wally and Cronkneary Lay to get it down there to the flat. So perhaps Paul Carey, you'd have to hire a few extra people to start levelling the mountains in the southwest of the island.
Maybe.
I noticed that one of the reasons given for getting rid of Ronaldsway is rising sea levels. The specification for Ronaldsway currently is that the airfield is at 52 feet above sea level. I wonder how many thousands of years are they forward planning on this, Andy?
And imagine what that's going to do for King William's College and Janet's Corner.
Yeah, and I'm worried for Obama with his new beachside property in Hawaii, and also Joe Biden with his beachside property in Delaware at Chesapeake Bay.
My word. I think we're fairly safe. I mean, what do you make of this whole proposal for Derby? Is it just a very cautious contingency? What do you think it's all about?
Well, that Wikipedia thing on RAF Derby says it's a replacement for Ronaldsway. So I'm just wondering, I mean, if it's 2,500 metres, that's actually 214 metres longer than Liverpool's runway, if we go with what they're saying, even though they've used two phrases, extended by and extra. Well, if Derby Airfield is already 1,164 metres long, that would be the 27 left runway at Heathrow. So I don't quite know. I mean, whoever's writing these things, do they understand what extend by or extra means? But anyway, let's say it's 2,500 metres. That would be Manchester Airport to length. So what's the costs of baggage handling, baggage staff, lighting, drainage, the perimeter fencing, the security staffing?
Cost of coffee.
Cost of coffee. Landside and airside, I would imagine, with an airport like that. The terminal to handle passengers. I noticed that Terminal 2 at Manchester Airport has been a £1.3 billion just to refurbish it and mothball Terminal 1, which I think is going to happen in 2025. I mean, what is the cost of this? And, the technology exists now. For a few million quid, you could put Category 3A auto land, which has been in place since 1968, when the old TriStars were equipped with it for Heathrow and Jaipur, the runways that have fog regularly.
Right.
And you've also got the Elbit system, which is the EVS, the Enhanced Visual Systems. So you put a little helmet on, and at the front of the aircraft, there's a multispectral camera system that looks through the fog in ultraviolet and infrared. And ATR offers that as an option on their planes now. So when you buy your plane, you can have that. And when you get into fog conditions, you just pop this little hat on, and there's a heads-up display sort of visor thing that's in your line of sight. And it includes, you can have moving lights, even though they aren't in existence on the ground, to enhance your vision. It'll include the TCAS avoidance system, so you can see all the other aircraft as little dots in your line of sight.
Presumably, everything's going to be revealed on Monday the 12th, then, a week on Monday, at the Parish Hall. Yeah,
unless, of course, it's a military thing, as one or two of the callers have come in which case it won't cost us anything, but a bit worrying if they start putting military boots on the ground on the Isle of Man. Why would they be doing that, I wonder? Considering the current current political climate around the world, with World War III being touted by...
and the state of the fact that the UK government's underfunded the military for years and years and years. I wouldn't have thought replacing RAF Derby was any sort of priority.
Unless it's the strategic position of the Isle of Man.
Well,
who knows? But
okay.
Who knows?
All right, have a good weekend, Julian. Thanks for being with us today.
You too, Andy. Thanks. Bye.
All right, okay. Text, email, call, WhatsApp, whatever you got to say today, by all means get in touch. Tina's with us now. Hi, Tina.
Hey, Andy. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Yes, your thing is tonight, isn't it?
My thing is tonight. Yeah, my thing being... 1 minute silence at the Summerland site, as everybody will probably know, that the 51st anniversary of the fire is today. So we've got a gathering of people. It's not a religious service. It's just a gathering of people who want to be there to commemorate on the site where the fire happened. We have the Ellen Banner pipes and drums playing, which we're very grateful for once again. And we have a lovely floral tribute from Elaine's Flowers in Peel, who every year supplies us with that. We lay the flowers down after having said a few words. We don't have, as everyone knows, a memorial to place any floral tributes on, so we just lay them on, on the rubble, really, of the car park. That's all we have, shamefully.
Well, it will be, tonight, what time was it? About 7:30, wasn't it? 7:30 on the 2nd of August, 1973.
That's when the fire started.
So it will be, what's the atmosphere like? I mean, you've done these before. What is the atmosphere like when you're there?
It can be very tense and very emotional. Yeah, I can't deny it. Yeah, it is. It's an emotional thing, and I understand a lot of people can't come to the site. It is it's still too raw for a lot of people here on the island and further afield. And so we always remember people who are thinking of us and thinking of that evening and their friends and families. So it does get quite, and I get quite emotional. I have to be honest about that. I have to steel myself to say any words as well, knowing the families, knowing the friends, knowing how they're still suffering to this day. And there's no line to be drawn under the Summerland Fire. I know a lot of people say, well, it happened, let's move on. Let's do something constructive with that site. Let's do a multi-purpose use. Let's do a car park. Let's do something for the kids. I can tell you now that you don't have a right to put a cap on anyone else's grief. And if that site was just any site on Douglas Prom, I wouldn't care. You could do what you want with it. But that site is of huge national significance. It always will be, and nothing will change that. Right. And unless some elected representative will step up and have the courage to step up and look that tragedy in the face, this is how it's going to remain for the foreseeable. Because all that's happening is that it's getting kicked down the road and kicked down the road and kicked down the road. One day, I do believe strongly, there will be a memorial on that site, and we and the campaigners will campaign and keep going until that happens.
Why do you think, Tina, because obviously it was reopened in 1978, why do you think nobody did anything back then?
I can tell you why. It's because people couldn't do it. There were people who objected strongly to another Summerland being built, particularly on the footprint of the first Summerland, as it was, and they also objected to it being called Summerland. They thought that was a slap in the face for us on the island and for those families and survivors. But we were totally overruled. The government had invested around 1.2 million into the first Summerland, and that's a huge amount back then of taxpayers' money. Douglas Council had invested almost 1 million of ratepayers' money. There was no insurance taken out by a commercial union, who were the councils who owned the site then. That was the insurers of the council. They wouldn't insure it. So there was no insurance taken out on that building, so they had to recoup what losses they could.
Tina, what do the families of the bereaved families, what do they say in their quiet moments to you about what they think of the Isle of Man and the reputation and Summerland and what's happened?
It's hurtful to me, Andy, as a Manx person born and bred, that we come off so badly in this whole situation. The reason that they think we've forgotten is because we couldn't commemorate. For almost 40 years, we could not commemorate what happened because nobody put in place any significant commemoration annually about the Summerland Fire.
Right.
So because of that, they think we've forgotten. I get it all the time. And I have to tell them here and now that there are thousands of people on this island who remember that night. They remember what they were doing. They remember how close they came to tragedy themselves, but fate stepped in and they never got to the Summerland site.
Well, I remember last time you were on, I think we ended up doing a whole show about Summerland, and there were some very harrowing tales. And even now, there are many 70-year-old women and men who flinch every time they see it.
Yeah, including me. Yeah, of course they do. It's appalling. It's shameful that that site is left as it has been for the past 18 years. It's absolutely shameful. And every time it features on a TV programme, I flinch. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed that our government cannot do something significant. I've got a plan. I've got a plan which is significant, and it would be a lovely plan if we could put it into operation. And it includes also an education centre so that future generations can know what goes wrong when people abrogate their responsibilities for the sake of greed and for the sake of money. And that's what will happen again unless we keep on remembering.
Okay.
Because it can happen so quickly and so easily.
Right. So it's tonight, the Summerland site by Derby Castle, 7 o'clock. Is that, what time do you want people to get there?
If they could get there for 7 o'clock, and we lay the flowers around 7:30, and we're finished by about 7:45. But can I also mention that this year, for a long time, we've had support from Douglas Council, particularly the Mayor, Natalie, who has changed their timings of their K Garden Memorial so that they commemorate at 6:45 before ours. So we're grateful for that, because we never understood why they changed their timings to exactly the same time as ours. But this year, for a long time, they've changed it. And so people who want to go to the K Gardens first can certainly do so, and then come over to us. It's only a hop, step and jump away, and take part in our commemoration on the site. And we'd love to see them if they could do that.
Okay. I'd like you, if you would, Tina, to say a few words about Josh Stokes of ITV.
Oh, what can I say about Josh? He's absolutely a tour de force on this island for what he's done for the Summerland campaigners and getting it out there to the public. We've had so much support from ITV, and their support, I have to say, is ongoing. They are going through this step by step with us and the campaigners. We are going to achieve an overturning of the death by misadventure verdict given to 50 people, which is a perverse verdict to be given out to 50 people who went in there totally innocent, totally believing that they would be safe, as all of us thought we would be safe. They didn't go in there any risk to themselves to warrant a death by misadventure verdict. So they're step by step with us, ITV, on this, and we'll go through the campaign. We've got a top human rights lawyer involved now, and he's progressing the case for us, which we're very grateful for. So we will get an overturn of the death by misadventure verdict. At the end of this month, or in a couple of weeks, an application will go forward to the Attorney General's desk, so he'll know that we are absolutely, totally committed to this. And so that's as far as the campaign. And the other aim of the campaign is to get a memorial on that site, and we will achieve those two aims.
Okay. Tina, what do you say to people who say, that this is a bit anti-Isle of Man, this is knocking the Isle of Man? What's in this for the Isle of Man? Is there anything positive that can come out of this for the island? Yes,
there is. There's our reputation. That can come out of it. The justice that should have been served for those people from the first anniversary of the fire. That's what can come out of this. We can salvage something from this. At this moment in time, our government isn't interested in salvaging anything from this. We have to push it on. The public have to push it on. If you want something like Summerland, fine, you do it. There's 30 or so sites registered on the list as ready for development in Douglas. You campaign for that if you want to do that. But for us, this is vital. This is our reputation. This isn't a Manx way of doing things, and that really grates with me. I hate the injustice of it. This is a welcoming island. People on here, we welcome people. We don't turn them away. We don't negate their feelings of 50 deaths having taken place and we just ignore it. That's not what we do.
Okay.
So that's what we can salvage out of it, our reputation. And also, can I say, Andy, too, which is very important, is the fact that 51 years ago this evening, it was also on the island who stepped up. There was no disaster emergency plan worthy of any note that we could fall back on. It was the people on this island who made a difference to so many others here at that time, and that's what we can be proud of.
Okay.
The emergency services here, the hospital staff, everybody who helped in whatever way they possibly could, they stepped up that night.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, Tina, what's your telephone number?
My telephone number, you're laying me on the line here, Andy, for God's sake. It's 424-806. Okay. Right, now, I get slammed on Facebook. People want something monetarily out of that site. Don't bother me without all of that. I'm not interested in it. You hide behind your Facebook keyboards if that's what you want to do. Do not phone me on that number, because you won't get any response. But for people who want to support us, the Justice for Summerland campaign is on www.justiceforsummerland.com.
Okay.
If you want to join us and support, that would be really, really welcomed. In any way you can, that would be great.
Tina, we appreciate it. And obviously, if people want to meet you in person tonight, you'll be at the Summerland Fire 1 minute silence on the site of Summerland just before 7 o'clock tonight. We wish you well, Tina. Thanks for being with us.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Not at all. 29 minutes before 1 on Mannin Line today. After 1 on Mannin Line, I don't know whether I told you this, but it's our 60th anniversary. I may have mentioned it. So we're going back to 1979. Of course, that was Millennium Year. And we're going to hear the moment that Odin's Raven arrived in Peel, the boat. Odin's Raven arrived in Peel after a 37-day journey from Norway, featuring commentary from a very young John Moss and the late Peter Neal. That's after Mannin Line today. Odin's Raven arrives in Peel in 1979. So, tonight, take a minute, if you want, just to remember 7 o'clock through till 8 on the Summerland site, that's going to be, was 51 years ago today, about 7:30, when 3,000 people were inside Summerland and the fire that killed 50 people. 80 people seriously injured. Many people have never forgotten it.
Well, I think we're unique that we have such a system. There's not many places that have a steam railway, electric railway, horse trams and so on.
That's Tony Brown, former Chief Minister, talking about our railway heritage and what we're doing and what more we can do. If you've got any thoughts on that, then do get in touch. Tony Brown will be putting a plaque on Castletown Station, 150 years on. Bonzo's with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hi, yes, and following on from Tina, yes, many moons ago, I used to go into Summerland as a wee nipper, and we'd moved across about a year before the Summerland Fire. And I remember seeing the first footage of it on BBC News. In those days, of course, there weren't digital news feeds or anything. It was a question of somebody with a 16mm film camera filming it and then going across to Liverpool, then into Manchester, should I say, and then having the film rush developed and then played on television. Yes, that's something very close to me as well. And as for the misadventure verdict, which then came to the inquiry, now, as I remember, the judge who led the inquiry was Sir Christopher somebody. Was it QC?
I'm just checking. Dennis Cowley. Oh, no, Dennis Cowley was the QC who acted for Douglas Council.
Yes, the judge in charge of it. The judge in charge of it went on to another famous, strange verdict because he was the judge who presided over the Jeremy Thorpe trial.
Oh, really?
And was so famously parodied by Peter Cook in the Secret Policeman's Ball. This was where he very controversially, in his summing up speech, pretty much almost directed the jury to find Jeremy Thorpe not guilty. So he was a well-known establishment figure and would do it as the establishment did.
Bonzo, why do you think some people have got a blind spot over Summerland?
Well, I think there are many people, of course, who've come to live on the island who weren't associated with the island at the time. And so, to many people, it's, oh yeah, fine, it's something in the past. It's not something that it's history they read about. It's not something that they have, really any great connection with. Except for, but you have people, of my generation, teenage generation, and those who followed, to whom that memory is still very, very fresh.
Okay, all right. We appreciate it, Bonzo. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, then. Thanks, bud.
25 to 1 on Manx Radio. So how do you think the government looks at our railways on the Isle of Man? Castletown railway station's 150 years old today, and there's a community event to commemorate the official opening. There's going to be entertainment, old photos, machinery and other memorabilia on display to community event from 3:30 this afternoon. There's a raffle to support projects to enhance the station, and at 7:15 tonight there's a blue plaque unveiled in the presence of the president of the Friends of Castletown railway station, former Chief Minister Tony Brown.
This is the Isle of Man talking, the Mannin Line.
So, what do you think? Does the government value our railway heritage?
At Thrive Farms, we have a passion for growing and providing fresh local food for the Manx community. As a not-for-profit, community-run business, we need volunteers. There are many opportunities to learn how to grow, harvest and more. Exchange your time for food and community. See Facebook or visit thrivefarmsiom.com for details. Thrive Farms, our community, our soil, our legacy. This audio has been kindly sponsored by Miller Chaps of Ramsey.
Quadlock is the strongest and most secure mounting system in the world for integrating your phone, camera or accessories into your outdoor pursuits and for your car, van or motorhome. See the Quadlock display at H&H Motorcycles in South Key, Douglas.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Banning Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
No matter how much you need to dig or how much you want to dump, Fox Group Isle of Man offer an extensive range of plant hire, long-term lease and sales. We're the island's exclusive supplier for Louis Gong excavators with immediate delivery. Our machinery comes with a complete service package with finance plan options. Call John on 458946 to discuss your plant needs. Fox Group Isle of Man, part of the Fox Group of companies.
Isle of Man Railways.
Get your tickets now for this season's range of onboard dining events featuring old favourites like the legendary Pie and Mash Train, the Curry Club and more, including memorable dining experiences on one of our Steam theme events with something for everyone. To find out what's cooking on the dining car or to book, call 697 457 or visit rail.im.
Isle of Man Railways.
Radio Caroline North broadcasts from the MV Caroline, Ramsey Bay from 1964 to 1968. And across this weekend, Ramsey's back in the 60s with vintage vehicles, live 60s music, special trams and vintage bus tours. And this Saturday, an evening of the illustrated history of Caroline North and South with historians Andy Wint and Ray Clark, when the original Caroline Bell will be displayed. Tickets for the evening are £10, available at manxradio.com, and all proceeds go to support the Ross Revenge Dry Dock Appeal charity. The Caroline North weekend is this weekend with Radio Caroline, Live at Home and Manx Radio. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Well, it's 21 minutes now before 1. I've said before, either build a small nuclear plant or another interconnector to the UK. We're at just 80,000, says Harry. Well, the government want 100,000, but never mind. We're 80,000, the size of a small UK town, so forget spending fortunes on spoiling the Isle of Man with turbines. Spend it on practical solutions. After all, we should have enough money if we fritter it away on docks and proms and other things that don't seem to be up to the purpose. So just put another interconnector in, and that's that, says Harry. Can you tell Quirky you can get cola-flavoured Jaffa cakes? Are we on the Jaffa cakes thing again? At EVF petrol stations. And by the way, when's he going to see the overgrown hedges in Bonus Crescent? Says Tony in Onken. So we have raspberry Jaffa cakes, cherry Jaffa cakes, cola-flavoured Jaffa cakes, and Jaffa cakes. The mind boggles. I back the last caller. The deadly ragwort to animals. Nobody's cutting it. The whole island's going to be smothered in ragwort by next year, says D in Colby. And the problem with weeds, says this texter, in the countryside has been reported to Jaffa. Jaffa couldn't care less. They're not interested in imposing penalties for weed infestation in the countryside. Thanks also to... hello, Crystal. With respect to the Cushag, it has to be pulled out by the stem, including the roots, and heavy-duty gloves worn as the toxins are absorbed through the skin and stored in the liver. Seriously, cutting it will not help it. In fact, it will cause more harm to animals who may contact it, as post-cutting with any rain, it loses its nasty odour and will put animals off when in bloom, so they know that it's poison. So, all take care when handling and disposing at the amenity site. Maybe the DOI will collect if people aren't able to do it themselves. They should really do it if the teams aren't out. That we need feet on the ground and willing hands at the heart of the ground, which we're all custodian of, says Crystal. Wise words, Crystal, so watch out if you're pulling Cushag out. It's not pleasant. I hope we can get something to eat at the new airport. We can't at the old one. The cabinets were empty the last couple of times we went through, says Texter 490. I noticed that. Do you remember once upon a time you could get a hot meal at the airport at Ronaldsway, and you get a warmed up pizza, I think, there, but that's about it. But once upon a time it used to be. You just wonder what the future is for that. Who's making any money out of the refreshments at the airport? How are some commissioners sending warnings out and ultimately prosecute private property owners for overgrown ragwort, but they won't send letters out to the same private house owners who can have tons of rubbish on their drive and in their garden, or in all these dilapidated houses on every street? When are they going to do something about it? Here's Charles, who said, there's a discussion going on X about the use of GBM stickers on our vehicles when we go across. Now, some people are saying we should be displaying a UK sticker, as those on the adjacent aisle do, instead of the GB. Something to do with Brexit. My feeling is that we're not the UK, so we should display GBM. I'm proud of my sticker, says Charles. Just wondered if anybody knows what the actual rules and regulations are on this requirement. Can you show a GBM sticker if you go to continental Europe, or will you get pulled up by the gendarmes for this? Or is it police on the motorways? Anyway, is it a GBM sticker, or do you have to show a UK sticker? Does anybody know? Anybody travelling the highways and byways in Europe, by all means, do get in touch. Tomorrow night, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times, but it's the Radio Caroline weekend in Ramsey this weekend. Really looking forward to this. Lots of 1960s stuff happening, some live music in the Murrock on Sunday. I think there's a 60s disco tonight at the Freemasons Hall in Ramsey. And tomorrow night, I'll be there with Ray Clark. Now, Ray is a guy from Essex, and he's doing a lecture on Radio Caroline South. And I'll be there telling you about Radio Caroline North, which was our Radio Caroline from 1964. Tynwald Day, actually, she pulled in to Ramsey Harbour. Tynwald Day 1964, and was hauled away March the 3rd, 1968. Anyway, the story of that and how it is a unique Ramsey story, where the headquarters of Radio Caroline was in Ramsey, who used to service it, the boats, what she did, the disc jockeys, the pop stars that used to go out there, and the fact that for 4 years it was as swinging could be. It was one of the places. Ramsey was an absolute hotbed. Anyway, tickets are £10, and if you want to just pitch up there tomorrow, there may be a few places left. All the money goes through to the Ross Revenge dry dock appeal. The Ross Revenge is the current ship that Radio Caroline's on, herself a very historic ship. Ross, called Ross because she was a Ross trawler from Ross Fisheries. Big boat, but she's old now, getting on, the old lady, so she needs some tender loving care, and they're raising money for a dry dock appeal for the Ross Revenge, and that £10 for the Radio Caroline lecture will go towards it. If you can be there, we'd love to see you. Anyway, I'm getting onto this. Eric said, will you please talk about Castletown Railway Station? I will. This is Tony Brown talking about our heritage, our railways, and what we need to do?
Well, I think one, we're unique that we have such a system. There's not many places that have a steam railway, electric railway, horse trams and so on. We were in charge of the steam and the electric, and my view was that we should do everything we can to preserve them. We knew that the Southern Line was in a very poor state of repair, and whilst being responsible for the trains, I was also responsible for implementing the Irish scheme, and one of the things we were looking at was how to get the main sewer system from Mary Veg through to Port Erin so that we connect up all the south systems. And the best option was actually putting it under the railway line, and so we spent a lot of time doing that, and part of that was to relay the whole line, which in itself meant that we could save the Southern Line in its totality, and that's what we have today.
Now, what's your opinion on the state of the railways across the island? Is enough attention being given to them?
I don't think the proper sort of status is given to the railways. What Isle of Man Railways have are very enthusiastic employees who love the railways. They don't just work there, they spend hours outside of their working time doing other jobs that help keep the railways going. And what we need is a commitment, a stronger commitment really, to invest in the railways. If tourism in the Isle of Man is going to have a future, then the railways as part of a collective tourist product are absolutely vital. You've only got to see now when a cruise ship comes in, the trains are packed because it's part of their experience on the Isle of Man. And I'm often here at the station and you see people coming off, Americans, all sorts of nationalities, and they're just taken aback with it. They're out with their cameras, they think it's wonderful. Now, they go back and tell friends and so on and so on. But the point is that the railways, along with other things, our heritage, are absolutely critical if we're going to be successful in tourism. So investing in the railways means you're investing in tourism, therefore generating income for the Isle of Man in the longer term.
There's Tony Brown, former Chief Minister, long-time MHK, and of course a member of the Commissioners in Castletown. I just wonder whether the fact that we're on top of the railways, sometimes we tend to forget them. As Tony said, when you have visitors, tourists, you see people who've never seen them before, they absolutely think it's fairyland, it's wonderful. One of my favourite stations is Port Sodrick. It's like a film set. And it's ours. But it does need public money. I mean, it does generate funds, don't get me wrong. The tourism side of our railways does very well indeed. However, it does need a subsidy to get it started, that end. So what do you think we can do? Is there anything else we can do to help publicise our railways and to make more of them? What's happening to the Isle of Man, says David. A 94-year-old friend has been told that Manx Care Podiatry will no longer be offering him a toenail cutting appointment and told him to make alternative arrangements. I'm disgusted with Manx Care. The Isle of Man is rapidly going down the pan, says David. Thank you, David. Good to hear from you. Texter 425. We had a call. It was Doug last week who was talking about that. Harry said, I've said before again, we need a small nuclear plant or another interconnector to the UK. Again, something we've been talking about on Mannin Line for 2-3 years. Certainly, I think it was mentioned during COVID. The fact that Rolls-Royce have got a patent and have got designs for small-scale nuclear reactors. The problem with weeds in the countryside, says Texter 785, has been reported to Jaffa. They're not interested in imposing penalties. Hello, Anne, 576. I received a gas bill for £78 yesterday. I knew it was wrong. I've not used the gas. I emailed IOM Utilities, told them I haven't used any gas. They apologised, saying it was a wrong bill. In fact, I'm £4 in credit. How dare they? If I were elderly, I'd have paid the bill. So the Manx government need to keep the Manx gas in line and not to frighten them with wrong bills. Thank you, Anne. Again, Dee in Colby, I bet the last caller, the deadly ragwort to animals, nobody's cutting it and the whole island's going to get smothered by this. Thanks also, everybody telling me where to get cola-flavoured Jaffa cakes. I'm very impressed, thank you.
The Mannin Line, daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio.
Thank you, Margaret in Ramsey. I was having, the day of the Summerland Fire, I was having a baby on that day, but things weren't going well. So the following day I had to be rushed over to what was Nobles at the time for a caesarean section. Myself and the baby survived, but I remember being trawled on a trolley to the theatre. The hospital was so full of people, but we must remember life goes on. We mustn't live in the past, says Margaret in Ramsey. I visited Ramsey the other day. The hospice shops, the Radio Caroline window looks absolutely fantastic. I know, I've seen it, Joe. Isn't it great? Ramsey and Radio Caroline in the 1960s. Hope you're going to be there tomorrow, maybe tonight and Sunday as well. And as I say, we're at the Mitre tomorrow night when we'll have that lecture on what exactly Radio Caroline means. It's not just a radio station and disc jockeys playing the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Politically, it was absolute dynamite. There was a constitutional crisis in the summer of love, 1967. Maybe I'll see you there. Andy's with us now. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Andy. How are you today?
Good, thanks. Yeah, what's on your mind, Andy?
Right. In the July issue of the Railway magazine, there is a full-page advert, Discover the Isle of Man. Explore the Isle of Man by Heritage Railway. 3, 5 and 7 night breaks. Holiday includes 5 nights bed and breakfast, return sea travel, go explore travel card from £380 per person.
Right.
On the other side, it says Summer Transport Festival, which of course is what's going on this weekend. Holiday includes 7 nights bed and breakfast, return sea travel, go explore travel card from £495 per person. Book with confidence. More information, contact Isle of Man Events Reservations Team, and it gives the phone number and the website. I think that's pretty cheap. £495 per person.
Well, for us, and also for a specialist experience, I would say I'll say that sounds dirt cheap to me.
It does, and that's obviously the Isle of Man government, or the departments of the Isle of Man government, putting a full-page advert in a nationwide railway magazine. Good publicity.
It is, and I think perhaps and again, familiarity can often breed contempt, and the fact that we've got these wonderful railways under our noses, we can often forget how important they are and how unique they are.
You're quite right, and I wonder how many local residents actually use the railway we've got.
Well, not as many as they should, we'll say that. All right, Andy, thanks for being with us today. It's good to hear from you. One
more thing, Andy, while I'm on.
Yeah.
You may remember I came on in June and said, how long does it take to fix a light bulb?
Yes, I remember.
Well, the answer is to the 1st of August.
Oh, really?
They got switched on yesterday.
Oh, my word.
Apparently, it's to do something wrong with the communication between the Ramsey Commissioners and the Manx Utilities.
Oh, it sounds like a new accounting period to me.
Something maybe.
All right. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
All the very best. So, quick word. The Derby public meeting on the airport is a week on Monday. Next Tuesday, there's the consultation event for Ørsted and the offshore wind farm with those 1,000 feet wind turbines. So Tuesday, Santander Work Cafe, North Quay Douglas. Wednesday, Corrin Hall Peel. And Thursday, Bradaglen Cafe in Port Erin. Next Wednesday on Mannin Line, John Curtis is here with Lamara Crane from the Isle of Man Green Party talking about net zero. I know. There'll be an answer somewhere. That's it. Have a great weekend. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow at the Mitre.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
There were dozens of events marking Manx Millennium Year in 1979, but none more dramatic than the return home of the Viking longship Odin's Raven. It may now be a static exhibit at the House of Mannin in Peel, but in that year it was very much a moving object as it came into Peel, watched by many, many people, amongst them Peter Neal.
The oars are going, the cheers are going up here at Peel. She left Trondheim
37 days ago, and they are on Manx soil. The two leading members of the crew leap into the water, the crowds cheer, the applause rings out, and Odin's Raven, as each member of the crew now, the Manx and the Norwegian alike, they leap into the waters and onto the beach. And what a greeting they are about to receive. His Excellency, the Lieutenant Governor, the patron of the Manx Millennium Voyage, and Lady Paul, who performed the launching in Norway in Manx and in English, and she calls herself the godmother to this vessel, and I'm sure it's a very proud moment for her particularly.
The crew are going to be very hard to get hold of at this point, but they're coming ashore in about 5 or 10 minutes, and if we can sort out a few technical problems, then I hope to have 1 or 2 interviews for us down there at the Longhouse, Peter.
What's it been like out there today it must have been a magnificent feeling.
Tremendous. I think they were very tired indeed. While I was out there, a lot of them were getting their heads down, trying to get a bit of sleep, because of course they've been rowing and sailing since about 3 o'clock this morning. I think they got mixed feelings about coming ashore today, because it's been a tremendous adventure, one of the great modern adventures, certainly for Manxmen, and perhaps for Europeans as well. What's it, a month and 10 days on an open boat, Viking style, really remarkable.
Thanks indeed there to John Moss, looking suntanned after his day at sea, and as I say, he's got a tremendous problem to fight his way through the thousands of people on that quayside. Odin's Raven now, as I look, has turned broadside on to us. That's bow first to the Viking Longhouse, the other Viking ships surrounding her now, and shortly one of the Viking ships acting as a tender will take the crew off Odin's Raven and bring them ashore.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.
Radio Caroline North broadcasts from the MV Caroline, Ramsey Bay from 1964 to 1968. And across this weekend, Ramsey's back in the 60s with vintage vehicles, live 60s music, special trams and vintage bus tours. And this Saturday, an evening of the illustrated history of Caroline North and South with historians Andy Wint and Ray Clark, when the original Caroline Bell will be displayed. Tickets for the evening are £10, available at manxradio.com, and all proceeds go to support the Ross Revenge Dry Dock Appeal charity. The Caroline North weekend is this weekend with Radio Caroline, Live at Home and Manx Radio.